Have you ever noticed that hero games are never short on characters, but they're always missing that specific character? Marvel Cosmic Invasion arrived with a cool cast and several choices I really dug, but let's be honest, it also left some holes that hurt a fan's heart, and that would have provided some absurdly stylish strikes, combos, and moments. So today, I'm going to do what we do best, complain with love. Here are 10 characters that everyone wanted to see in Marvel Cosmic Invasion and who, for some reason, didn't show up. And look, there are at least 3 here that would have been practically easy wins. They're so obvious. I'm Matthew, and the video is about to start.
Hey, come on! There's enough dough to go around for everyone!
Thor being left out of Marvel Cosmic Invasion hits me in a special way because he's that type of character who sells the Marvel fantasy instantly. Thunder on the screen, impact in every blow, and a presence that makes any scene feel bigger. In a game that promises cosmic brawling and absurd scale, he naturally fits like a glove. Not just because he's strong, but because his style is pure spectacle. And I feel that, without him, there's a little empty space in that list of heroes who transform any confrontation into an event. In terms of gameplay, Thor would be a full plate for making combat more varied. You can imagine a kit that alternates between brute force with Mjolnir and area control with electricity, throwing the hammer to catch enemies on the return, calling down lightning to interrupt rushes, or even charging up energy for a screen-clearing strike when things get chaotic. He would also be perfect for crowd control mechanics, one of those characters who reposition the flow of the fight and let the team breathe when the swarm tightens. And the best part? Thor has a visual identity that matches perfectly with a cosmic invasion game. Strikes with lightning illuminating the stage, wind pushing particles, that sonic boom that makes you feel the weight of the impact. That is beat-em-up arcade action language in its veins. I can even see running/entrance animations that are more divine, as if he arrived at a battle literally changing the climate of the stage. Regarding levels and interaction with the environment, he would also provide very cool moments. Thor is the type of hero who justifies more destructible arenas, secondary objectives like powering a mechanism with electricity or bringing down barriers, and even controllable hazards. Imagine an ultimate that transforms part of the map into a storm for a few seconds. Plus, he fits easily into big confrontations, mini-bosses that require stagger, flying enemies that you pull to the ground, or those cosmic brutes that need someone with a colossal grip to go toe-to-toe with. And there's the charisma factor. Thor is great for giving the game rhythm with personality, whether in his more noble and epic version, or that more playful vibe of someone who has seen the universe end about 3 times and still enters the fight smiling. He would yield very fun interactions with more grounded characters, while bringing a sense of myth, that spice of this is larger than life. For me, he's exactly the type of character that would make Marvel Cosmic Invasion more memorable, because he wouldn't be just another one on the roster. He'd be a moment generator. You know, there's something that bothers me a bit about Marvel Cosmic Invasion: the absence of the Hulk. It's almost weird to think of a game with She-Hulk, who is amazing by the way, and not have the Jade Giant himself. His presence would have brought a unique energy to the gameplay, that raw sensation of uncontrollable power that few characters can deliver. The Hulk has always been the symbol of pure strength in the Marvel Universe, and that alone would open up a gigantic space for fun and destructive mechanics. Imagine him as a character focused on rage mechanics, where the more damage he takes, the stronger and faster he gets. This wouldn't just fit perfectly into the game's combat system, but would also add a strategic touch. The player would have to decide when to unleash all that rage to cause maximum impact. And let's agree, Seeing the scenarios being completely destroyed while Hulk tears through everything would be something the community would love to watch and play. Furthermore, the Hulk is a character that meshes very well with the cosmic concept. Marvel has already explored incredible versions of him, like Planet Hulk and World War Hulk, which are perfect arcs to fit into this type of narrative. The idea of a gladiator Hulk fighting in intergalactic arenas, facing aliens and space titans, sounds practically custom-made for the game. Having She-Hulk might cover the tactical and more controlled side of Hulk's strength, but Bruce Banner would bring the chaos, the unpredictability, the raw essence that is missing there. Another point that is missed is the emotional contrast Hulk brings. He isn't just punches and destruction, he's someone in constant conflict between Banner's intelligence and the creature's fury. This could generate darker missions or even moral dilemmas, something that would add depth to the game's script. She-Hulk, being more stable and confident, doesn't represent this tragic side, so including the Hulk would create an interesting balance between control and lack thereof within the narrative. At the end of the day, Marvel Cosmic Invasion could have gained a lot with the Hulk. Besides being one of Marvel's most iconic characters, he would bring a type of power and emotion that no other character can replicate. It's that kind of absence you can feel, you know? Hopefully, if the game has future expansions or DLCs, the Hulk finally appears to smash everything and show that the Marvel Universe isn't complete without him. Deadpool's absence in Marvel Cosmic Invasion is one of those decisions that is understandable from a technical point of view, but emotionally, hard to accept. He's the type of character who completely changes the energy of any game because he brings humor, unpredictability, and a combat style that is pure entertainment. And the most curious thing is that he would have fitted perfectly into this cosmic universe, not as a savior or strategist, but as the agent of chaos the galaxy never asked for, but definitely needed. Thinking about gameplay, Deadpool is a dream for any game designer. He mixes melee and ranged in a natural way, switching between swords and pistols fluidly, and this could create a super fast dynamic within battles. Now imagine the visual effects. Weapon swaps mid-combo, cartoonish explosions, special attacks full of meta references. He's that type of character who turns even a common confrontation into a spectacle, because the player never knows what's going to come out of the next hit. And his interaction with Wolverine would be pure gold. The chemistry between the two is legendary, a contrast between acid humor and weary seriousness. In a game like Marvel Cosmic Invasion, this duo would yield hilarious dialogue and combat scenes synchronized with sensational timing. Maybe even a joint move where Wolverine gets annoyed at being dragged into the mess, and Deadpool responds with a joke in the middle of the beatdown. It would be an incredible way to add charisma to the game without breaking the rhythm of the action. On the narrative aspect, Deadpool could function as a rupture element within the plot. While everyone is immersed in intergalactic dilemmas and existential threats, he would bring that comic gaze that breaks the tension, perhaps even joking about the very fact that he's in a game. He would provide crazy missions, absurd decisions, and even moments where the player would feel that Deadpool himself knows he's controlling the character. This meta-language would give a unique identity to the game, and honestly, Marvel Cosmic Invasion would only have to gain from this dose of irreverence. The cosmic universe is amazing, but sometimes it needs someone to mock all the seriousness, and no one does that better than Deadpool. He wouldn't just bring more variety to the gameplay, but also personality, that seasoning that turns a good game into something memorable. And seeing him fighting side by side, or bickering the whole time, with Wolverine would be one of those experiences we'd remember for years. Doctor Strange being left out of Marvel Cosmic Invasion sounds almost like leaving a key piece off the board. Because when the subject is cosmic threats, dimensional invasions, bizarre entities, and universe rules bending in the middle of a brawl, that is literally his day-to-day. And I think Strange's presence would give the game that feeling that Marvel is complete. Not just strength and technology, but also the mystical side that explains the impossible. In gameplay, He would be a perfect character to bring control and creativity. Instead of just hitting and dodging, Strange could reposition enemies with portals, interrupt attacks with magic seals, and create zones on the ground that trap or drain energy. The idea of opening a portal to throw one enemy into another, or returning projectiles to the sender, has everything to do with an arcade action game that wants to be exaggerated and satisfying. And he could even have setup attacks, rewarding those who think for 2 seconds before unleashing a special. Visually, it's hard to think of anyone who would yield more incredible effects. Glowing mandalas, spinning runes, bending the scenery for an instant, illusory clones, mystical tentacles, that psychedelic vibe that mixes magic and space. In a game called Cosmic Invasion, Strange would be the guy who makes the cosmic truly different. Because he's not there just to trade punches with aliens, he's there to alter the rules of combat. This creates variety and gives that pleasure of, wow, this character plays in a totally unique way. And then there's the level design and situations he would unlock. You can imagine moments where the team needs to cross a dimensional collapse, deal with gravity distortions, or face enemies that can only be affected after some kind of disenchantment. Strange could interact with elements of the scenery, open shortcuts, reveal hidden platforms, or transform a section of the map into a different challenge for a few seconds. This wouldn't just make the levels more striking, but would also give real reasons to choose him beyond, I like the character. For me, the biggest waste is not taking advantage of his personality amidst the chaos. Strange has that air of, I've seen worse, but also a charming arrogance that yields great interactions with anyone, from the most skeptical hero to the most impulsive one. He would be the type of character who, in a cast full of punchlines and bravado, brings a spice of mystery and authority. And in a game about cosmic invasion, I feel he would be missed precisely for that. He doesn't just fight against the impossible, he makes the impossible seem like routine. Loki's absence is one of those choices that leaves me divided. Part of me understands that the focus may have been on more direct characters, but another part thinks about how amazing it would be to have the God of Mischief in a game of this type. Loki is that character who transforms any story, not only because of his charismatic presence, but because you never know which side he is really on. And in a game about cosmic invasions, he would bring exactly the touch of unpredictability that is missing. In terms of gameplay, Loki would have absurd potential. He wouldn't need to be the typical brawling hero. His charm lies in manipulation. Imagine a character who stands out for his use of illusions, false copies to confuse enemies, teleportation to quickly reposition, and attacks that seem to come from multiple places at the same time. He could even play with the game's mechanics, creating traps or visual deceptions, where the player deceives the enemy and elegantly turns the tide of the fight. Visually, Loki would be a spectacle in itself. The illusions, the green and gold projections, the mystical aura, all of this combines perfectly with the cosmic atmosphere of the game. In a moment when the screen is filled with energy, portals, and lights, seeing Loki manipulating the battlefield as if he were playing with the rules of reality would be incredible. He would bring not only strength, but style. That theatrical touch that makes the player feel like they are controlling someone with power and intelligence in equal measure. And speaking of narrative, Loki is the kind of character who creates memorable moments. He could easily be both a temporary ally and a disguised villain, with twists that would make the campaign more unpredictable. Maybe he would help the heroes out of self-interest. Maybe he would deceive everyone to face an even greater threat. This duality is what makes Loki so fascinating, and leaving him out means losing one of the richest characters to develop more intriguing plots within the Marvel Cosmic Invasion universe. Deep down, Loki is that ingredient that transforms the story from a simple confrontation between heroes and villains into something bigger, with layers of intrigue, manipulation, and sarcastic humor. He would bring lightness in the dialogues, elegance in the battles, and complexity in the motivations. He's the kind of character who doesn't need to dominate the stage to steal the scene. He does it naturally. And that's why, for me, Marvel Cosmic Invasion without Loki is like a magic trick without the illusionist. It technically works, but it lacks that spark of genius that only he would have. Black Widow being left out seems like a silent loss to me, because she's not the kind of character who screams cosmic power. She proves it in the details. And I love when a game full of gods, monsters, and space energy remembers that skill and intelligence also save the day. Natasha brings that professional vibe, someone who enters an impossible war and still finds a way to turn the game around with precision, coldness, and attitude. In gameplay, she would be perfect for a more technical and fast style, one of those characters that reward timing. I imagine short and efficient combos, lots of dodges, counterattacks, and defense-breaking moves, as well as gadgets that change the dynamics of the screen. Shock batons to paralyze, smoke grenades to disappear and reappear on the other side, and traps to control the advance of enemies. She would bring a different flavor from just hitting hard, and that's gold in a large cast. And even in a cosmic scenario, Black Widow would make sense precisely because she is the contrast. While the rest of the team shoots lasers, invokes magic, or smashes the ground, she wins in the micro, punishing openings, taking down more agile enemies, canceling dangerous attacks, and disarming threats before they turn into chaos. I can see her being an incredible choice for those who like to play clean, with constant movement, and that feeling of, I'm dominating this fight, not by brute damage, but by control. Visually and in animation, she would also yield a lot. The acrobatic moves, the combat stance, the finishers with grapples and locks. All of this looks beautiful in arcade action games. And you can play with the environment, jumping over larger enemies, using the scenery as momentum, landing a quick takedown that changes the flow of the screen. She would be the character that makes the combat more choreographed, with that spy movie flavor in the middle of the space apocalypse. And there's the personality side that I miss when she's not there. Natasha has a dry humor, a seriousness that cuts through the euphoria of the more impulsive, and at the same time, a sense of partnership that makes the team seem more real. In Marvel Cosmic Invasion, she would be the glue between the exaggerations of the cast, the reminder that, in the end, it's not just about power, it's about who can stand when everything falls apart. And for me, that's exactly the kind of presence that makes a game more memorable. Carol Danvers being left out is the kind of thing I feel right away, because she's practically the perfect bridge between earthly Marvel and space Marvel. When the game talks about cosmic invasion, Captain Marvel seems like an obvious choice. She knows this territory, has dealt with giant threats, and has that "I've arrived and now the room changes" presence. And the coolest thing is that, alongside Captain America, she would form a duo that mixes classic leadership with absurd scale power. In gameplay, Carol would be a character with a very clear identity: impact, mobility, and energy blasts, but without losing the hand-to-hand combat. I imagine her alternating between aerial combos and ground lunges, with blows that cross the screen and break lines of enemies. And that's where the synergy with Steve comes in. While the captain holds the center and creates windows with stuns and blocks, she comes in like the hammer, punishing entire groups, hunting elites, and finishing mini-bosses with explosive sequences. You could make some combined blows that would be pure fan service in the right way, like Cap throwing the shield and Carol ricocheting an energized shot off it, spreading damage in a cone. Or Steve pulling enemies into an area with constant pressure, and her coming down with an energy slam that clears the space. You can even imagine a special duo in which Cap marks the target, style focus, and Carol fires a beam that crosses the horde, giving that feeling of a trained team, not just two strong characters in the same place. And there's a detail that I find very interesting. They both have captain in their name, but they lead in different ways. Steve is strategy, morale, and courage. Carol is confidence, impulse, and that attitude of someone who faces the impossible head on. In a game, this would yield great lines and a very human dynamic. Cap putting the mission on track, and Carol reminding you that sometimes you just need to accelerate and clear the way with your chest. This duo would help give more personality to the campaign, especially in phases that seem really war. In the end, I think Marvel Cosmic Invasion loses an essential ingredient without Captain Marvel. The feeling that there is someone in the cast who was born to fight in space. And together with Captain America, she wouldn't just be another powerhouse. She would become a piece that improves the entire team, because she transforms leadership into offense and offense into spectacle. If the proposal is Cosmic Invasion, Carol would be one of the most natural ways to make the game seem even bigger. Star-Lord being left out seems almost like a thematic crime, because he is literally one of the most recognizable faces when Marvel dives headfirst into space. And Peter Quill has a quality that I love in games. He doesn't need to be the strongest in the room to be the most fun. He brings that energy of an improvised adventurer, half leader, half walking problem. And that combines too much with the idea of a cosmic invasion where everything can go wrong at any moment. In gameplay, he would be perfect as a hybrid character. Fast shooting with the element guns, high mobility, and short combos to maintain the rhythm. I can see him alternating between bursts with different effects, fire, ice, shock, and hand-to-hand finishes with those exchanges of blows like a spacebar brawler. A kit like this adds real variety to the cast because it changes the way you clear hordes. You don't just hit, you manage distance, status, and positioning. And that's where the propulsion boots come in, which would be a delightful differential in a beat-em-up. You can use them to dash in the air, cross the screen to save an ally, extend a combo with an air juggle, or even escape area attacks with a short boost. This would create a character with a lot of skill expression. Whoever plays well with Star-Lord would seem to be dancing in the chaos, entering and leaving danger with style. Visually and in personality, he would also yield memorable moments. The sarcastic lines in the middle of the fight, the way he provokes cosmic villains as if he were arguing with a club bouncer, and of course, the musical references. Even without turning the game into a soundtrack show, you can fit in small jokes. A special that seems choreographed, a ridiculous pose after a blow, or a comment that breaks the tension without spoiling the mood. He's the kind of character that makes the game lighter without being silly. And the most interesting thing is that Star-Lord helps to sell the feeling of a team, because he works as a social glue. He talks to everyone, annoys some, inspires others, but always pulls the team forward. In Marvel Cosmic Invasion, he could be that hero who doesn't have the most absurd power, but compensates with cleverness, courage, and improvisation. Exactly the kind of thing that makes a campaign more fun to follow. For me, he would be one of the most playable characters in the cast. One of those that you choose not only to win, but because it's impossible not to smile controlling Quill. Magneto being left out hurts even more when I think of him alongside Nova, because then you have a duo that screams space war in a very particular way. Nova is that cosmic patrol force, straight to the point, disciplined, almost military. Magneto is the complementary opposite, calculating, dramatic, with a power that seems to control the battlefield itself. Together, they would be that rare combination of order and intelligent chaos. And I feel that the game would miss a huge chance to create truly remarkable moments. In gameplay, the synergy would be perfect for those who enjoy playing in a real team. Nova could be the guy for constant pressure and rapid displacement, marking targets and keeping enemies busy, while Magneto repositions everyone with magnetism, separating elites from the rest and opening windows of punishment. You imagine the scene. Nova enters with a luminous dash, locks onto a more dangerous enemy, and Magneto lifts the minions around, leaving the one-on-one clean. This would change the rhythm of the screen in a delightful way. And you can go further with combined blows that would be very satisfying. Magneto could gather metallic scrap and create a kind of rotating sphere, and Nova would cross it with a cosmic impact, spreading shrapnel as area damage. Or Magneto holds enemies suspended and aligned, and Nova fires a straight beam that catches everyone in line. That setup and payoff feeling that makes beat-em-ups addictive. This would make the duo seem choreographed, not just two strong characters sharing the same phase. Visually, it would also be a duo that fills the screen in the right way. The contrast between Nova's cosmic glow and Magneto's twisting metal effects would be absurdly beautiful. Blue-orange light cutting across the screen, debris spinning like satellites, enemies trapped in the air as if gravity had been turned off. In space scenarios, stations, ships, orbital scrap, Magneto would turn the scenery into a weapon, and Nova would be the tip of the spear, accelerating and finishing with explosions of energy. And there's the narrative side that I think would fit like a glove. Nova represents duty and responsibility. Magneto represents conviction and control, even when it bothers everyone. Putting the two together in a cosmic invasion would yield tense but very interesting dialogues. Nova trying to keep the mission clean, Magneto reminding that war is war and that results matter. For me, this duo would be one of the most memorable in the game precisely for that. Not only for the blows and synergies, but because each fight would have that feeling that two very different forces are tolerating each other, because the universe left no other choice. Cyclops' absence is one of those things that make me scratch my head, because Scott Summers is practically the definition of leader in combat in the Marvel Universe. And if we think of a classic triad with Wolverine and Jean Grey, his absence leaves a hole not only strategic, but emotional. He's not just the guy with the optic beams, he's the strategist who makes Wolverine's chaos and Jean's raw power work together like a well-oiled machine. Without him, the team seems to lose its command center. In gameplay, Cyclops would be that perfect character for those who like zone control and precision. Imagine him not just shooting, but using the scenery to his advantage, ricocheting beams off walls to hit hidden enemies, or sweeping the screen with a continuous beam to keep hordes away. He would complement Wolverine, who is pure hand-to-hand combat and aggressiveness, providing long-range cover and clearing the way for Logan to come in tearing. With Jean Grey, the synergy would be even more spectacular. While she levitates enemies or creates telekinetic barriers, Scott could take advantage of these moments of vulnerability to focus his shots with critical damage. You could create ultimates in trio that would be pure fan service. Jean immobilizes a boss, Wolverine jumps to distract and break the defense, and Cyclops finishes with a mega-charged optic blast. It's the kind of coordination that makes the player feel smart and powerful at the same time. Narratively, the dynamic between the three is pure gold. Scott brings that weight of responsibility that contrasts with Wolverine's rebelliousness and Jean's emotional intensity. In a cosmic invasion scenario where the stakes are very high, seeing Cyclops trying to stay focused on the mission while dealing with the group's internal tensions would add a layer of drama and personality that enriches the experience. He would be the voice of reason in a chorus of chaos, and that is essential to anchor the story. In the end, Marvel Cosmic Invasion loses a lot without Cyclops because he is the maestro who makes the X-Men orchestra play right. He brings tactical discipline to a genre that often boils down to frantically pressing buttons. Having the chance to play with this iconic trio, exploring their stories and combining their powers, would be one of the highlights of the game. His absence makes the presence of Wolverine and Jean seem a little incomplete, as if the piece that connects everything is missing.